Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome. This is Railroaded in Missoula, the homeless story. Tonight we have a very special guest, Mr. Elza Ostrom, better known to the Missoula public as Sleeper from KLCY on Sunday mornings, Sleeper's Lost and Found show. Sleeper and his family have a tremendous amount of experience with the homeless people, the cardboard jungles, the train riders, panhandlers. They've worked with them, they've helped them, they've done a lot for them, they know them, they understand them, but most of all, they love them. Tonight, Sleeper's going to tell us a story how he got introduced to those who are economically disadvantaged. Sleeper, go ahead.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me down to be part of your show. Well, Mom used to take me with her when she would check in with shut-ins with the senior citizens back in the late 40s, early 50s. And we used to go to a place called the Cardboard Jungles, and there used to be about, 25 to 30 people out there behind the old white pine sash. And we used to go down there at lunchtime, and Mom would go in there, and we'd have lunch with these people. Good lunches. Good lunches. And, got to meet with them, and of course, a lot of times the police would go down there and tear up the jungles, But that goes farther than that, because back in the 60s, we had Gandy dancers pretty heavy around Missoula. And of course, we had Reverend Powell that used to sing his song just outside the mission right across the street here. And he'd bring in all the alcoholics, the winos, and the Gandy dancers, and preach about an hour with them and have them a sandwich and a cup of coffee and send them on their way. Wonderful person. But yeah, in Missoula here, if we can do something right, the pop's doing a good job, but needs to go a little bit further, I worked in San Francisco with the Glide Methodist Church, and what we did, Alice Kavanaugh, she's about up in her 80s now, both her and I started a place called the Hospitality House for kids, runaways, and that. We had a hotline, employment office, a VD clinic, and a place where if they needed a little counseling or something like that, or if they want to call home on the toll-free line, it was all right there. That's something that we should have up here too, that all these agencies working together, it works good with a church background. Of course, with Poverello, that's a church background, so they should be able to do something like that.
Yeah, there are, I had mentioned it on a show a couple of weeks ago, there are several cities in the United States now that are setting up voicemail, because when you use an address like 535 Ryman Street or 728-1809, that's not to your advantage in a lot of places here in Missoula.
Exactly.
So this voicemail is a good idea, and hopefully somebody will take the initiative and get it started.
Yeah, it's going to take a little time, to find out. Of course, the city of Missoula every 6 months changes this whole area, like the Woody Street. There used to be nothing but bars there years ago, and now that's all totally changed. There's nothing down there. It's just a place in the wall, and then you head up Alder Street, and that's all changed too. So the attitude and latitude of people have changed. They change every 6 months to a year, and that's what's happening. You don't see the winos like they used to be downtown here. Used to sleep out here in the railroad tracks. I remember one guy that got his leg chopped off by the train, Harvey Lord. He dragged himself all the way to St. Pat's Hospital. Nobody would help him out. There's some stories that come out of the wood you wouldn't believe about things that's happened here in Missoula, like the man that was run over by one of our local police cars.
Gosh.
Right out in the middle of the alley there at the Atlantic Bar, and that was back in the early 60s. Yeah. What happened to the man in 444 that was never answered? See, there's a lot of stories, hidden stories that people don't realize that's happening here.
Things have happened here in Missoula, that these people are not only economically disadvantaged, undereducated, they were either ignored or, in some cases, abused.
Sure. And when like the city here, they do what they can to help out as much as possible. I think they can do more without being so pushy. Well, take off. That doesn't work. If they're going to work with them and tell them this is a group that you can go to. give them a card or something like that, that you can go to Poverello, they can get help there, or through one of the churches or something like that. It all can happen if it all come together as a group of people and sit down, and this was happening, because, you know, you see in the paper here recently is a lot of negative stuff is going on,
There is.
panhandling. And I told them at that meeting, when the Downtown Association of Heaven, this is, that'll never happen. People are going to continue to ask for change. And it's still happening today. Even if they made $700 off the last time,
Yeah, they,
never change.
that's something that I don't even think it's worth going into in another program, because I think the Missoula Downtown Association has egg on their face, and they deserved it, and I think they earned it.
Mm-hmm.
They got I think it was an $1,800 grant, and they probably raised, by the time they finally took the carafes back, maybe $1,000 or something
Yeah.
like that. It was just a total waste, a total loss. G.K. Chesterton wrote once that if you want to know who the experts are in poverty, ask the people that are in poverty.
Exactly.
I'm one of these believers that the textbooks don't have the answers. They only have guidance.
Yeah.
You get the answers from the people who pose the questions and who ask for help. They also have the answers. They're looking for answers, and we're looking for answers. And except in the case of mental health, as far as I know with my limited knowledge, there's not a whole lot of dialogue between the haves and the have-nots.
And we got quite a few of them that around Missoula here, and you can see them. And a lot of times they're the forgotten people, especially when it's cold outside. Of course, if you go down in the Front Street area, you'll see a lot of them sleeping in stairways off the streets.
Yeah. I understand one of the churches down in that area had to put up some kind of a barrier because of people sleeping. And there's going to be more and more people sleeping. Tell me, Sleeper, going back a little bit in the 50s and 60s, was there enough shelter capacity in Missoula for the people that needed it?
No.
No.
They all slept down by the railroad tracks. Let's go back a little bit further, back in the 30s.
Okay.
When the railroad trains would come into the roundhouse here and pick up coal, people that had families had to go over in the middle of the night with gunny sacks and pick up this coal that fell off the trains.
This happened back in Boston also.
Yeah, and there's also that was happening here, and also some of your people that lived out in the openings like that. We steal some of that coal too, you know. So yeah, just not just wood and that. I've heard a lot of history from my granddad that, you know, he was born in 1895. So there's a lot of history there. And so I got to meet with a lot of these people because I got to see the other side of the tracks there. I didn't get to grow up as a high mucky muck, because I'm not. I'm just being a natural person like anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to see natural people. A lot of times I'll go over the Poverello. I don't go over there every day. I might go there once or twice in 6 months and sit there. And you find such unique people there from all categories of lives, you know, and everyone's got a telltale story.
Yeah.
And it's so unique.
Yeah. There are no two stories alike. And when I go over there pretty frequently, and I really believe in mini miracles.
Yeah.
That some people somehow, all of a sudden, I don't really think they get lucky. I think they get blessed somehow. And it's beautiful when they recognize this thing and this blessing, and or whatever you could call it, and they cooperate with it or they use it to their advantage, and you see a success story.
Right.
But unfortunately, I don't believe that the Poverello is equipped to create circumstances for good things to happen. They can facilitate a lot. Sometimes I think they fall down on that. But good things do come out.
Right. But if you take somebody out of context and say, we'll send them to 15 different cities, what are they doing in those other cities that Missoula, Montana's not doing? They could bring that back and educate our people here and get more churches involved, so you have a committee of people, that people with families, a person that's a handicap, You don't have facilities for these type of people.
No.
Of course, you'll send them to the Joseph House. But what about these people who are sleeping out there that the city of Missoula says you can't sleep around? And so where do they go? Well, there's places that are called Ewoks. Ewoks are people who go over the hill and sleep on the other side of the hill. And there's tons of them. Every year here in Missoula that does that. So you don't see them. They're out of sight, out of mind.
Right.
They're called Ewoks. They're people that climb the hills and sleep on the other side of the hill.
I have heard that if there's 200 people using the facilities at the Poverello, there's probably 200 people or better that are hidden.
Exactly.
That will never show up on the census. They come into town. I've known a few mountain men. The only time you see them is when they come in for groceries. They're just plain fed up and disgusted with civilization and with the treatment that they have received because of their status.
Right. You go 30 miles west of here, along the river, and you'll find some people live along there. You even got one young fellow that goes to the University of Montana and lives down by the bridge.
I had heard something like that on the streets.
Even going west, going up the Wallace Creek and that, you got to be welcomed into their camp. They're not going to let you in there. But yeah, there's people that's living back in this back country, and people don't even realize that there is somebody sleeping there. But some of these people have been around here for years.
Yeah, and they just fed up with society, I guess. Do you think part of the reason they might be fed up with society is a lack of education, or some of these some of these rules that have made being homeless a criminal act?
Yeah, or running away from something.
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody's there's a different story for each one of these people.
Yeah, there's no two stories alike. It's
Exactly.
and I think that it's probably one of the problems in this town, and probably many other towns too, not just Missoula, but the one size fits all doesn't work.
That's true. One size fits all. But you know, we have a good outlet, but since the government's starting to put all these tie-ins in that, the forgotten people are still on the street. Sure, they're helping the little tykes and that. Some of these families are living out in their cars and vans and stuff like that, but yet DFS comes by and takes away the kids. You know, they're starting to be recognized. If you look in one of our magazines, national magazines that just come out, about the woman that had her kids taken away from and went back to Oregon.
Right.
And that just hit. And that kind of saying is some things that we need to kind of look at what's happened with DFS, because some of these families are coming and they're down on their and they're not getting no help.
No, this does happen. Some of these people, and you know, one of the characteristics is when you meet people that are having problems like this, for the most part, they're really beautiful people.
Oh, you bet they are.
They are beautiful.
I met some wonderful ones. I'll tell you one that I enjoyed the most is Billy Bird. She's dressed up like a pigeon, because see, in the city of San Francisco, you're not feeding the pigeons.
Mm-hmm.
But she used to go up there to Union Square Park in her pigeon outfit, and the mannequins are all up there, and these people that dress up and, you know, it's hilarious. Anyway, she goes into Judge Kennedy's court, and Judge Kennedy always puts her in jail because she's got that bird outfit on. But this is very humorous. If you think this is something, Missoula, Montana, there's some, if you could sit here and watch Higgins Avenue, some of the hilarious things that goes on. But if you want to see a weekend of a bunch of fun people getting together, and they'll take context out of the Bible and they'll sit there and just make you roar and laugh. These are
Isn't
wonderful.
that something?
Yes.
So what I'm hearing this, these people that are in one way or another disadvantaged, they've managed to maintain their sense of humor.
Exactly.
And I don't see that sense of humor in Missoula.
No, I am more or less, if we're really looking at anything right now, I would have to say that there's a lot of hostility, because they got to watch themselves, because I think they're being run out of town, or feel like they're going to be run out of town. The street people are not as strong as they used to be back in the 60s here, because the officers of Missoula have been pretty well keeping the city clean. But they don't realize a lot of these people during the winter, where they're sleeping at. Look in your garbage bin sometime and find one or two people in there.
Yeah, this is.
I made that very lightning to one of our officers here in Missoula, that this does happen. They sleep there in the courthouse. And you notice they trimmed it up around the courthouse?
Yeah. You know, this does bother me. There's definitely not enough beds available. And I only know of one instance where a man did pass away living on the outside, but he was pretty sick. He might have passed away anyhow.
We had one lose his leg out here back in 1988 out there in East Missoula when we had that blizzard here, and he slept in a tent, and he was a military man that had to live like that.
Isn't that
He
something?
just didn't want to be with society anymore, so he slept out in his tent, froze his legs.
Gee. And it bothers me that with some of the strict guidelines and some of the overly, oh gosh, what's the word? Overzealous citizens and possibly a couple of police officers. It bothers me that we could see a situation if we got another real bad winter that there will be people that'll just, come out like a chunk of ice with their sleeping bag right on them.
Exactly, and I think that the officers would use their heads. Light, one time, excuse me, when it got really cold here in Missoula, Light, when it was down there on West Broadway, 900 block, they opened up their doors and put all these, civil defense even came in and brought a bunch of those cots for them to sleep on because it's so cold. We went out outreaching these people, and we found a lot of them, brought them back, families too, so they kept where it was warm at. And that was a bad winter we had here years and years ago, but that's what we need, another place besides Poverello, because a lot of these people are trying to get back on their feet, and some people, in a way, don't care. They just want a place to sleep.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of people's down in their luck. And of course, with the economics here in Missoula, a lot of these people don't have the best credit in the world, and they're finding it very hard to find a place to live. They got the monies, but they just have a hard time with finding a place because you got all these new guidelines coming in there, and a lot of these people are just living right off the street. They don't care about what's happening anymore. It's kind of tiring when you have to have somebody go in your personal life about you. That's not right.
Yeah, they do. They
I
ask
think
a
that
lot.
housing should be a necessity instead of somebody's economic woes right now.
Right. I know. I download so much stuff off the computer, and the two big things is adequate employment and affordable housing.
Exactly.
Now, there's employment in Missoula. I've known some really pretty good success stories of people at the pub. All of a sudden, they're not there any longer. Inquire. Well, they went back to work at their trade, $15 an hour.
Yeah.
But it's rare that this happens in Missoula County, so to speak.
I think this is kind of just a standby here, and then they go on to Spokane, or they're going over to. But we used to get a big influx from out of Washington coming in during the wintertime.
Mm-hmm.
Then, when all these welfare changes and that, it seemed like a lot of them just went back to Washington.
Yeah.
But we still have people here, and I see the truck sometimes will pull up, or a car or a van, pick up Poverello and pick up a couple of those people. Got a job for them for the day or something like that, and that's so neat. There's always instead of going to the employment office, they just come down to pop and pick up a few people.
It's
That's
true.
wonderful.
I do have a story on this and the employment and the Poverello and another agency, but I have to save that for another show because it's part of a whole big basketball size of things. Jump back a little bit right after the cardboard jungle and right after the coal collections and everything, when things seemed to settle down, and then all of a sudden we had Korea. How did that affect Missoula?
Korea?
Korea and the homeless people.
Well, we really had hardly anything going on during the Korea here in Missoula. The town was kind of a dunce. It was quiet. We didn't have that much going on. Oh, you still have a few that was around. They're all passed away now, but you always have the fun-filled people still around. But a lot of the locals had left and went to war in Korea and that. But during that time, economics in Missoula was about even.
Or even, now, we know, because they're very predominant, the people that came back from Vietnam, and this has been mentioned on previous shows, that they needed, basically, I think, they needed so much cannon fodder that they lowered requirements from the middle of the Vietnam era on, and therefore these people were not, a lot of them were not mentally prepared or adequately prepared to come back into society after the life they had lived. Was it this bad after the Korean War, or was it sort of slow scale?
I would say with Vietnam, and I've met a lot of those Vietnam guys, a lot of them don't even trust the government.
I don't blame them.
In the state of Washington and Idaho, you find a lot of them live in the back hills. They won't have nothing to do with government. And then there's quite a few of them here that I've worked with over the years. There's one that he's totally 100%, and he went back 4 times. And, you know, I guess he plays out, and then sometimes when he gets so stressed out, he wants to talk to him to come over, and he'll sit and we'll talk about what happened. And I always remember a film. He says, always, if you want to know what Vietnam was really about, watch the film Hamburger Hill. He says, that's just about as true as you can get it.
I heard it. I'd never seen it, but that's interesting. Now, do you see that the Vietnam veterans have more of a desire to roam around, or they just want to settle down somewhere and be out of sight, so to speak?
They're reaching out. They're screaming for some help. Of course, you've got some agencies that work with them because of vets. Some will get a hold of their local vet representative, and some, just as I say, they don't trust the government anymore, don't want to have nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
And a lot of them, like, will end up at a Poverilla, or they'll end up, you know, out on the road or something like that, you know. And
yeah. I think most of the people that are out there in the boonies right now, I think most of these people are veterans. You know,
they are.
I heard an interesting theory not too long ago, that one of the problems with Vietnam, as compared to other wars, is people were selected and sent individually, and then when their time was up, they came back individually, and they were back in the States in a matter of 3 days, 4 days, maybe a week. Whereas after World War II, these mental problems didn't exist because everybody went with their friends and they came back with their friends. The camaraderie was there all the time. In Vietnam, the way things were done, you were an individual. You weren't really a member of a unit. You went with your friends. You were with strangers, and you didn't know whether they were going to cover your butt or not. And I think this might be part of the reason that many of these Vietnam veterans want to be loners.
yeah, they do. They sometimes they'll want to talk about what's going on. Sometimes they'll drink themselves to death. And I've seen them right down in the gutter.
Yeah.
And I've seen them where they've abused their families, don't want to have nothing to do with society anymore. It's living hell around those people sometimes, because you want to see the hardship of some of those guys. And when they left here and went to Vietnam, the coolest people you want to talk to in that went over there, and it was a total transformation when they came back here. Just like they don't care anymore. They just don't care about themselves or the way they live, you know.
Yeah.
I've seen so many of the hair out to here. They don't care. The wine bottle was more important than their hair.
Yeah. Any war, and we're feeling it right now here in America, creates a lot of hurt. And I think in Vietnam, the ladies and men that went there and came back, they had no idea how to control this hurt. Because they came from such an affluent society.
But see, Korean War was the forgotten war. World War II, as you say, we had compadres go together, they came back together. Some didn't. Some came back with half arm, half a leg. Vietnam, they brought them people back into the United States without deprogramming them.
Mm-hmm.
Big word, deprogramming. evaluating or having the psychologists or counselors to work with these guys. They just brought them back cold.
And dumped them.
Exactly. And
Dumped them.
nothing has been done to help these people out. And then after 5 or 6 years of living hell, underline hell, then they started reaching out and say, I need help. And that's when they started getting their help.
Yeah. Fortunately, here in Missoula, I've never met anybody at the vets representative. I think they're in the same building we're in. I think they're still in this building. I've been in there a couple of times with a couple of guys, and it's very comfortable. I hear a lot of good things about it.
Oh, yeah.
But
They're there, but the guys that say they don't want to come forward until it's time. It's just like you start out having your beer at home. Next thing you know, you end up drinking your wine. You're rippling that and having the snakes. And next thing you know, just you have to hit rock bottom before you ask for help.
yeah.
That's the same with Vietnam.
I spoke with a social worker out of the Partnership Health Center a couple of weeks ago, and she's at the park apparently daily, I think, and doing good work because I hear some good things from her, from a couple of the people.
Partnership is one of the most wonderful organizations here in Missoula that's working with POV, and they work good with the low-income people, too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And she asked me, why do these people wait so long to come to a doctor, to come to a nurse? And again, I think it's that case of mistrust.
Bingo.
Everywhere they go, they're abused, so they figure, well, here's another door, there's more people, I'm going to be abused again, and they don't want to go.
I'll tell you what, I've met some wonderful doctors over there at the partnership.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Lovejoy, Lisa Lovejoy, she's wonderful. She works with a lot of the poor people, and there's other doctors there too. And all the agencies are working with the partnership. So yeah, they got a pharmacy there, everything you need, and the outreach, which they did back in the 40s and 50s, they had nurses from the public health department go out because scarlet fever used to be pretty heavy in Missoula here, and measles, of course, all the regular things. But that's what's happening again. Now, if we can just get the doctors to come out of their offices and make home visits again, they'll make it so easy around here.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the trust has got to be, you guys say there's a trust there, and I'm quite sure that you'll find that these people will have a trust if they have somebody they can trust.
Yeah.
And that's why I think it's so neat to have a nurse or somebody from partnership over there.
Yeah. It is beautiful because there's no doubt that many people, probably as high as 75 or 80% of the clients of the POV do need help in this respect. But the thing I find, it's tough for the people in the Poverello to to recognize what a particular problem is and steer people to the right place at the right time.
That's where the educating, that's how I keep preaching. We need more education, more people working so they can evaluate each of these persons' problems and direct them to that agency for that help.
Yeah, and that's even with the Poverello staff working with the clients, there's the education factor is missing.
Oh yeah.
It's definitely missing. This is not to say that they're doing the wrong thing. I believe in the sincerity of the people. Just to jump back a bit, and I know the work that Dr. Lovejoy does with people, because people come back and they'll tell me when I'm hanging around the pub, I went to see the doctor. Who's your doctor? Lovejoy. And she's got a whole staff over there that's just like her.
Yeah.
That they're caring people.
Yeah, very fun.
They're loving people. There's just well, I got to say, it's kind of hard to believe there's an organization like this in Missoula.
Oh yeah.
Because it's probably the most caring organization, because it reaches the broadest amount of people, and they do this without being quite specialized in anything. They're able to help people, and this is a big plus for the POV. It's great that it's so close. It's great. What else you got on the top of your head?
We just need to get someplace here. We get all these government grants. I think we should look into another grant with the churches in mind, so we have something else besides Poverello, have a place where these people are trying to get back on their feet, and they have a 10-point system to help them find a job, and work them until they get their first paycheck, and then help them get into a housing unit, of course, as I say, and economically, it's kind of hard because these agencies here, I guess people have been burnt so bad, and that's why they go through these agencies.
Mm-hmm.
And the screening is about one of the worst that I've seen in the state. You know, because I used to be in the housing programs, and I get so frustrated when I see people that are having a hard time or trying to get back on their feet, and then these people, these agencies, insult them.
Yeah.
That is a big factor. And there is a couple of people that I know it's taken ratings on some of these agencies. You wouldn't believe some of the agencies here, their rating is
Yeah,
bad.
I've downloaded the, I forget what it's called, from Missoula County, a report on everything.
Mm-hmm.
And if you, and of course, it's made to look, everybody look good, but if you kind of read between the lines and stretch things out a little bit, there's people hurting because of the way, well, mostly I think it's individuals that are just not properly trained, but
Exactly.
it reflects on the agencies.
I'm out there every day, and I
Mhm.
talk with all these people, and I've sat there and well, I can't say I lived it, but I've associated around these people that's gone through this, and
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it's living hell.
These situations are frustrating, and when you take people that are down at the bottom end of the ladder, they have no place to go but up, and they're screaming for help, and they're pushed off to the side. They can't climb the ladder this way. They go, well, let me push you over there and try to climb from there. Uh, the sad part of it is, and I've seen it, people go to these agencies, and part of the reason is they don't understand the agencies. They don't have it explained to them properly. And they come back from the agencies with these frustrations, and it's lunchtime, and that they're and they're mad. And next thing you know, you have almost an explosive situation when one person talks to another. Things just get out of whack, and of course everybody all of a sudden is an expert, and they're going to tell this guy or this gal that, you know, well, you're a dummy, you should have done this, you should have did that, and the situation gets worse. Hard feelings arise, and it's just one complete messy situation. How do you handle something like that?
First thing you want to say, how do you clarify ignorance? How do you clarify the person's got the job, not doing his job? Of course, they always expect the person to be professional at what they're doing. A lot of times these people don't have the receipts in that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's to a point where they don't trust anybody anymore. So the trust is gone. They want paperwork. Well, sure, a lot of these people don't have it. You know, but they're still through the cracks. That's what's happening here in Missoula. Catch-22 and cracks. Two of the main worst things here, because if you don't have it, you're not going to get nowhere. And the trust is gone.
Yeah, and once the trust is gone, the camaraderie and the friendship is gone.
Exactly.
And then the love that we should all have for each other, that's gone too. Wait, now let me ask you too. As you say, you're out there, you're mingling with the people, you're doing your share. The train riders, we don't see too many of them in Missoula. There's about a half a dozen staying at the pub right now.
We still have a few.
Yeah, but the few that are staying at the pub are not your average. Well, we'll go here for a few weeks. We'll go there for a few weeks. They come and they stay until they're just made unwelcome, apparently. And not necessarily by the pub, but by society in Missoula in general. And then they take off for another city. Are they any different from the train riders from 20, 30, 40 years ago?
Well, you have your Gandhi dancers. If they heard that there was a bunch of help up here, they're putting new rails in or replacing rails, they bring in a Gandhi dancers a train where they could sleep there. Once some of these guys get a whiff of a little alcohol or something like that, you lose them. And it might be for a couple of weeks. Once they get heavy into the booze and that, and they get the snakes, usually they'll dry themselves out in 2 or 3 days, and they go back to work, and they're the best hard workers in the world. If we're going to, it's so exhausting because I see this all the time, you know, and we just don't need it. As I say, these guys are hard workers in that. But yeah, they get down on their luck too. But as I say, a lot of these people are damn good workers. They just have to be given a chance. and they're not getting a chance because the trust is not there anymore. See, one right after another. Trust. What's the next thing?
It's sort of like a domino theory.
Exactly.
City to city.
And that's exactly what's happened here. But you tell me about the people that come through here. I would say that it's lighter. Yeah, you might get 3 or 4, but back in the 50s and 60s, you used to have as many as 40 on a train coming through Missoula, or you could have more going west. You know, this was just a kind of a drop-off point because at that time we didn't have Poverello. You had the hobo jungles.
Okay. But while they came through Missoula, though, there was employment here for them as gandy dancers or what have you.
Yeah, but they worked with the railroad.
Right.
Yeah,
They work with the railroad, but again, there's no railroad now,
yeah,
so therefore there's no jobs.
no jobs.
Speaking about no jobs or anything, I heard a story the other day at Holiday Village. Radio Shack's moving out, if they haven't already, out onto North Reserve Street because Holiday Village is, the customers just aren't going there. They don't get the customer count that they used to get. Now, there's many people employed at Holiday Village, and I imagine most of them are probably making less than a living wage. Some of them probably don't have cars. Is this another blight on Missoula, where people, if Holiday Village does go out entirely, people are going to lose jobs and not make it around?
Well, you're looking at a person that back in the 50s, when they had the Holiday Village open, I was the official Santa Claus for that.
Oh, gosh.
Montgomery Wards, I was the official one there. And when what was it, the Cardinal gas stations opened up, I was their official clown. I did a lot of PR. I'm even the one that stayed in the fallout shelter out in front of the Safeway store. That was back in the early times. But yeah, there's a lot of history, but then when the malls and the big box stores are starting to come into Missoula, which they're doing now, yeah, everybody's putting all this money into that, but there's no wages. No wages at all. So what's doing, it's ruining what's out down here and taking it out there. So actually we got 2 Brook Streets. That's the way I'm looking at it.
Yeah.
Because they're both getting tied up. Of course, they're a little bit bigger out there in reserve. When's it going to stop?
But in the meantime,
The downtown's going to die.
downtown is dying. So even the few jobs as dishwashers or short order
Exactly.
cooks, that a lot of these people are qualified for short order
Oh,
cooks.
yeah.
They're pretty good. You can see when they help out in the kitchen at the PAW, they do some pretty darn good things.
You know, some of those guys have been doing it for many, many years, and they just kind of got out of it. But when asked to jump at it,
Yeah.
you know, I've seen a lot of professional people that have retired that worked through that Poverola kitchen. Danny Condiff and his wife, both Southern people, and boy, they know how to make that Southern fried food.
Oh, gosh.
They're wonderful. And then, as I say, you have a total variety there. I call it the variety grocery store when you go to Poverilla because there's always something totally different.
Yeah,
And they always got something. But the one thing I like, you got well-balanced diets there.
yeah,
They're very well-balanced, and that's really impressed me about Pav.
yeah. There are some people. I talked to one fella today. I asked him before I went. I said, "What's for dinner?" He says, "Gravy train." what are you gonna do? To some people, it's gravy train. Yeah, they're pretty well balanced. As far as following a diet that a doctor gives you, you can't go to Poverello every day. But for just normal, average, everyday eating, yeah, you can eat pretty good at the Paws. Before we close for the evening, just a couple of small items, short items, important items. Seattle, they've solved their potty problem. City council meeting early this month with the mayor. One of the council members said, "We're not willing to wait. We've waited a long time. The business community has waited a long time. We're going forward." And they did. With the usual political bickering and everything and thrown back and forth and stuff like that, was finally voted they're going to get their toilets. A German firm is going to provide 5 self-cleaning toilets in areas with heavy pedestrian traffic. And one of the reasons, the business community has waited a long time. This is a great idea. was discussed about a year ago at the Missoula City Council. Maybe eventually something will come of it. It'll sure help. They have two ways of going about it. An annual surcharge of about $1.70 on the residential water bills. But they're going to try to get advertising kiosks. Sell the advertising. This will pay for the toilets. And apparently the firm will make a profit. Everybody's happy. No more potty problems. Seattle's not the only city. There's plenty of other cities too that have public toilets. It could probably be called a wave of the future. One thing I've got to correct myself on, I had forgotten a conversation I had with a Poverello employee, Laurie. Totally forgot it. I mentioned last week that after 2:30 and between 7 was a problem. There was no showers. I was wrong. Even though the sign says, 11:30 to 2, showers are available after 2 o'clock for people coming off of work, coming in from the boonies, what have you. But showers are available. It's not as bad as I made it sound. And don't forget, the Poverello clothing room. From what I heard, it's a success. Mondays and Wednesdays, 5 p.m. until 7 p.m. There's a lot of good clothing down there. Stop by, take a look. Don't go home empty-handed. I saw an interesting thing at the Poverello earlier this week. It was interesting, but it was sad. A woman alcoholic. She got herself into a mess. She got herself lumped up a little bit. One of the Poverello staff members took an interest in her. A real genuine interest. And I don't have all the details, but the bottom line is the woman is staying somewhere, I think 5 or 6 days, going to get a chance to dry out, a little bit of time there for drying out and kind of get her head screwed back on right, because she's a beautiful woman. She's an older woman. She's part of the graying of America. And then she'll be welcomed back at the Poverello. So it looks like this story's going to have a happy ending. Thanks, Amy. And don't forget, you've got to volunteer. You really do. You do a lot for people. But when you volunteer and you find out how much you've done for yourself, it's amazing. Missoula, 316 549 HOPE. The POV, 728 1809. Do yourself a favor and do the clients a favor. Here's 2 wonderful volunteer opportunities. Look into them, ask, and make a decision. Thank you. Well, we're going to wrap it up, ladies and gentlemen, and here's another organization. We're going to make a poster. I hold it out every week like this or something at home. It's Light, 728 5080. You can find them with the Christmas trees at Albertsons here in Missoula or down in Hamilton. It's family-oriented.
This is all families that work together, families working with other families. And Light, as I say, has always been around, and they've always helped people out.
Okay, now if you haven't volunteered yet, or if you're still trying to make up your mind, give them a call. Let them know who you are. 728 5080. And all it is you just have to ask them one simple question. What can I do to help? Thanks and good night. I appreciate you sharing your time with me. And we'll talk to you again next week. Good night, and God bless.